We have on our show today U.S. Senator Katie Britt from Alabama.
That's right.
Great state of Alabama. You're 44 years of age.
42, almost.
42.
Almost.
I don't know why I got you carried. I got carried away. You're 42 years of age.
That's right.
And you're the youngest Republican in the Senate, and that you married, got 2 children.
That's right.
I've met your husband, a great guy. He played football at Alabama.
That's right.
Was a captain, and then played for the Patriots.
That's right.
And is a good first man.
That's right.
And,
he sure is.
But we love the people. I said people of West Texas, people throughout the state of Texas and throughout the nation love what you're doing. And I want to go through and talk to you about how you got where you are today.
Yeah, let's do it.
And I want you to talk to me about your parents first.
Oh my gosh. Well, Chancellor, thank you for having me on. I'm excited to be here. You are a legend. You go all the way back to your time with my predecessor, Richard Shelby. And so it's really an honor to be on your show today. My parents are as good as it gets. I am fortunate to have parents who love the Lord, who believe in working hard and believe in instilling the values of faith and family and freedom in the next generation. And my mom has a nickname. So I'm the oldest of 4 girls, and her nickname is Stone Cold.
Stone Cold.
Stone Cold, because let me tell you, this will sum it up for you. She sent me to orientation and to move into my dorm at college by myself. And she told me, if you can't handle that, you have no business going off to school. So we joke that you could climb Mount Everest, and she would say, well, next time, let's see you do it a little faster. So she believed in, obviously, just a wonderful woman with a heart of gold, but wanted to make sure that we.
But she had a faith in you.
That's right.
She knew, and it gave you confidence.
Oh gosh, absolutely.
And your dad?
Absolutely. And my dad, oh man, just such a good human being. Watching him, so small business owner, he sold boats, had a hardware store. It was a family business, 3rd generation. So he believed in getting to know people, serving in the community. He was, president of the school board and the bank board and, nursing home, all the kinds of things. So not only did he give and invest time and energy in his business, he knew that being a pillar of the community, that serving others was what you were supposed to do. And
what church did you attend when you were growing
First
up?
Presbyterian Church. So it's a tiny little church on the middle of the road. It's like basically on an island in Enterprise, Alabama, where I'm from.
Enterprise.
Yeah, and my community that I grew up in, Kent, is it is a small business, military, agriculture community. It's in the bottom of Alabama. So for all the people from Texas that are listening, it's right there, right above the panhandle of Florida and next to Georgia, right there in the corner.
It's close to the ULCA area, the lower Alabama. What do they call it? It's almost like UCLA, but it's
that's right. Because my grandmother used to tell people that she was from LA, and she had the thickest Southern accent when she said it, and people were like, "Really?" And she'd say, "Yes, Lower Alabama."
Lower Alabama.
Lower Alabama. So just really, I come from an incredible community. Really proud of it. Really proud of my parents and what they taught me, and they also taught me that the world's going to knock you down, but it's up to you to stand back up. And so those values, obviously, at that small church that we went to, my great grandparents actually started the church, and so my dad. It was important to us for us to continue to go to church. What
activities were you involved in when you were in high school?
Okay, so I danced. My mom owned a dance studio. So I danced my whole life since the time I was 18 months old. In high school, I was also a cheerleader. Believe it or not, I was National Cheerleader of the Year.
Wow.
Who knew that was even a thing, right? But did that, and then also was involved in our civic club, which was the Anchor Club. And then really my interest in this, I got selected to go to Alabama Girls State. And that was a game changer for me. We went, and in typical fashion of my mom, She said, we got there, I pulled up, and I'd actually just come from a cheerleading event. So I had all the clothes in the back of the big old Suburban. You remember those tanks?
Oh, yeah.
Just the big, yeah. So I had all the clothes in the back of the Suburban. My mom's making me pack in the parking lot. I was so embarrassed. All of these young women had signs and banners. And my mom's like, you got to run for something. And I said, oh, Mom. She said, remember what your grandfather told you. And what she was referring to was in preparation for Alabama Girls State. I went and met with community leaders. I went and met with, family members and my dad. I met with the district attorney, all of those kinds of things. But the last person I met with was my grandfather, and we did it after church. I went and rode home with him. We did that, and my grandmother made us sandwiches, and we were talking, and we talked through a number of issues, and it was important to me. My grandfather meant a great deal to me, and I valued his opinions. We talked through stuff, and at the end, he said to me, are you going to run for something? And I said, oh, no, sir. No, sir. I'm packing up my stuff. Oh, no, sir. He said, why not? And I said, well, so-and-so, her mom's a judge, and so-and-so, her dad's the CEO of this, so-and-so, she goes to this school, and so-and-so is the governor of Youth Leg. And he said, stop right there. He said, I don't ever want to hear you say that again. He said, those are not the things that are going to determine your path in life. Right. He said, it is not your zip code. It is not what high school you went to. It is not what your parents do. It's not what's in your bank account. He said, Katie, the things that will determine your path in life are your character, your integrity, your work ethic, and the way you treat people. And he said, I have great news for you. You, and only you, control all 4 of those things. And so he said, I don't care what you run for, but I want to see you run for something. And so my mom reminded me of that when I got out, and I ended up running and being selected Alabama Girls State Governor. And it was a moment, because I never thought about government being something that someone like me from a more rural part of the state, that daughter of 2 small business owners, public school kid, could have the opportunity to achieve. But I think that's what's so great about America.
I attended Boys State.
Did you really?
And ran for governor and came in second. God! So if I'd had you there campaign for me, I might have won.
You know what? We could have worked that out. But I heard that you certainly do know how to campaign, and you were legendary in Texas for that very thing.
Well, I always enjoyed campaigning. When I was a freshman in Congress, Shelby helped me. I got elected president of the freshman class.
Did you?
And Richard Shelby, who you replaced,
yes,
is one of my very best friends, and was a giant of a man. He's one time we said that if Shelby told somebody to go to hell, that he'd do it in such a way they'd look forward to the journey.
That is so good. That is well said.
He was great at understanding people.
He sure was.
You went to the University of Alabama.
I did.
And was that a pretty easy decision from the word go, or were you torn?
I was torn. There was parts of me that thought that I may want to go somewhere else, but it ultimately ended up I was selected to be a part of the Blunt program, and through a number of different things, honors, now it's called the Honors College, and other things. It seemed like the right fit, but I really did struggle when I got there. I tried out for cheerleader. I didn't make it. I tried out for freshman forum, officer, didn't make it. I tried out for Bama Bells, didn't make it. I tried out for the baseball hostess. I didn't make it, which, by the way, I shouldn't have made that. I had no business. I don't know a thing about baseball. So I had no business. But the truth is, I tried out for Capstone Men and Women. I didn't make it. I really wanted to contribute to something bigger than myself. I wanted to be a part of something at that institution where you feel like you belong and you can give and you can make things better. And I really just couldn't find my way. And it wasn't until second semester, I even talked to my parents about that when I went home. I don't feel like I can find my place. And I ended up running for Student Government Association senator. Somebody encouraged me. They knew that I had, participated there in Girls State. They said, why don't you try this? And I poured my heart and soul into that, probably because nothing else worked, and really loved it. And I was an SGA senator and then was SGA vice president of student affairs. That was my first public debate. I did a debate, and a good friend of mine came up afterwards, and he said, wow, you're really good at that. And I said, well, thank you. I appreciate it. He said, well, too bad, you'll never go any further because you're really good. And I'm like, whoa.
Yeah,
I thought you just said I was really good. Why am I never going to go any further? And he was like, oh, well, because you're a girl. I did not go to the University of Alabama to be SGA president. But in that moment, at that point in time, I thought, oh, game on, buddy. And so ran for SGA president.
You were president of the student body.
I was. And that gave me an opportunity, obviously, to work with Dr. Witt there at the university. Who
was originally from Texas.
That's exactly right. So I was the first SGA president selected when Dr. Witt got there. And so got to work hand in glove with him on making it a student-centered institution. And then obviously had the opportunity to intern with Senator Shelby through a class credit. And so it was a rocky journey to find my way in Tuscaloosa, but ultimately did and found something I could be a part of that was bigger than myself.
That's great. When did you meet your husband?
Okay, so I met him. He was the very first person that I met. So
at Alabama.
Yeah, let's rewind. Remember, my mom sends me by myself to orientation. Everybody else has their parents. I'm kind of sitting there. I am terrified. I have driven all the way from my small town to Tuscaloosa, and the roads aren't the best. And as a friend, somebody that I knew walked up, and I was so happy to see a familiar face. And the very first person that they introduced me to was the person with them, and it was Wesley Britt. Then I go to register for classes, and the honors kids and the athletes register first. I won't tell you which one of them get priority, but I bet you could guess.
I can guess.
No, but so I walk out of there. Another young man stops me, and he said, Hey, do you mind giving me and my friend a ride home? Now, in hindsight, that was a terrible idea at 18 years old. But I said, oh, sure. And he said, well, just wait on my friend. Well, out comes, again, Wesley Britt. And so he said, this is Wes Britt, 5-star recruit, left tackle, gives me all of his stats. And I said, I actually just met him. So I end up taking these 3 huge Alabama offensive linemen home in my tiny little Firebird, drive them home. Turns out they had a car there the whole time. I didn't know that until years later. But then I go to my first class, and guess who's in it? Wesley Britt. And so we ended up becoming best friends. We never dated. We went to lunch together every Friday, all 4 years of school, and we did not date until 7 years after meeting. But I get to say I got to marry my best friend.
Well, he's a great guy.
He is.
And then when you got out of the University of Alabama, you then started to work in Washington.
Yes.
And you were working for Shelby.
Yeah.
And she never had the title chief of staff, but Ann Caldwell.
Oh, hey.
She ran the
and
organization.
That's exactly right. And golly, there is no element of Richard Shelby's career that she was not part of in a significant way. And she has been a mentor to me and so many other people. I'll put it to you this way. For your listeners who are saying, well, what did she do? She did everything. She had like 3 or 4 jobs rolled into one. But when I was Senator Shelby's chief of staff, I would have a new person come in. And I would tell them, hey, get to know the ropes. And I'd have kind of a little program that they did over the first 24 hours to get acclimated. Then I'd call them in my office. And I would say to them, so tell me, how was your time? And I'd ask them, do you have any questions? And then I would say just a couple things. And I would ask them a couple of questions. I would get to a question and say, just to kind of sort of see, did they learn what they needed to? I said, well, let me ask you a question. If Richard Shelby asked you to do something, and then Ann Caldwell ask you to do something, whose do you do first? And when they would say, oh, Senator Shelby, I'd say, wrong answer. Wrong answer. I said, if she asks you to do something, you always do hers first. And Shelby loves that story. You know, it's so true.
It is true.
Anne always reminds me, she said, all the things I was doing are things that he needed to have done. So she's what made that office work for so many years.
Well, she started with in 1978 when we got elected.
She sure did. It was Rick Roberts' first hire, Ann Caldwell.
And she stayed until he retired.
That's right. She turned the lights off and is still just such a integral part of all things. I mean, Richard Shelby and Dr. Annette Shelby are such incredible people. And, Senator Shelby always believed in empowering women. And I attribute that directly to Dr. Shelby. I mean, first tenured female professor at Georgetown Business School. She is also from the same county I'm from, so that little rural county in the bottom of Alabama. She's from Kinston. I'm from Enterprise. And I was always just so grateful for her example and showing what could be done, the way she carried herself, her intellect, her passion. But Senator Shelby, as a result, always believed in giving women opportunity. And you saw that throughout his entire career, trusting and knowing and helping women excel. And obviously all people, but really, really incredible in that
he was tops.
Absolutely.
Let's kind of jump ahead. You got to the position. I want to bring from the time that you were chief of staff. You worked your way up chief of staff for Shelby.
So I did.
And
I worked for him, and then I went back and worked for Dr. Witt, and then I got married and moved to New England, where my husband was playing for the New England Patriots. Then I came home and went back to law school with a newborn and an 11-month-old. So on the scale of bad ideas I had in my life, that one was number one. Then I practiced law, did general corporate work in Birmingham and Montgomery, and with a firm, Butler Snow, just a great firm.
When Wes played for the Patriots, one of his best friends was Wes Welker, who was one of the best players ever to play at Texas Tech.
Oh, and in the league, too. Yeah. I mean, Wes is just incredible. He is a rare talent with just such tenacity and work ethic. Just amazing what he could do. I mean, amazing to watch him play. His wife Anna is wonderful.
Move his feet faster than any one of us.
Oh, I've never seen anything like it. I have never seen anything like it. Wesley loved being able to play with Wes and get to know him and get to know Anna. And obviously they have 3 beautiful children, but we cherished our time at the Patriots, and they were certainly part of that.
But you had a baby and an 11-month-old when you started law school.
Yes.
Wow. They should have checked you at a psychiatrist.
100%. In hindsight.
That is driven.
What was I thinking? Well, and Wesley went back and got his MBA. So here you have the 2 of us in school. And then get this. The day before exams, my first year of law school, 1L year, our house blew away in a tornado. We lost our house, our things, our cars. By the grace of God, I am sitting across from you. And so you add that element in there too. And of course, the rest of the university, including the graduate programs, all got to do away with their exams. Now the law school, though, we had to take them. So it was certainly an interesting summer, just trying to kind of get back on our feet, try to figure out one foot in front of the other, take exams, clerk at a law firm, 2 babies, all kinds of things. So it was certainly a character building opportunity.
You worked at one time for the chamber.
I did.
And that was statewide position.
Yeah. Look at you. Look at you. You've done your homework.
I know about you.
I am impressed.
Shelby
I am impressed.
He bragged on you.
Oh, so after I finished practicing law, I took a leave of absence to run Shelby. I was deputy campaign manager and communications director for his primary campaign. Then I came in, was his chief. Then I went home, and I was the president and CEO of the Alabama Business Council. And so
you met every business person in every community in the state of Alabama. And got you in a great position that you could run for the U.S. Senate. But when you announced for the U.S. Senate, it wasn't overwhelmingly Katie Britt. No. Talk about the poll, the first poll that you had.
Man. So, So I got in the race, and there was a sitting congressman already in the race. He, at the time, had the former president's endorsement, and he was polling at 65%. 65%. And then I was polling at 2. And you know enough about polling to know you put your name on the ballot and you get to 4. So I tell people the fact that I could only get to 2 is really quite remarkable, but not in the way that inspires confidence. But we got in anyway because my husband and I, we prayed about it. We talked about it. We both had to step away from our jobs. So we both had to resign in order to do it. And that's a lot. It's not in the financial plan at 39 years old, right? But we believe in our state, and I believe I live in a great state with great people, and we have a great story to tell.
And you also serve with Coach Tuberville.
I sure do.
And he's a good man.
And I tell people often on the campaign trail, they would say, ask about Coach Tuberville. And I had one person ask me one time, they said, we're just so glad you're running. We think this way we get both political parties represented in the U.S. Senate. And I said, oh, no. I said, Coach Tuberville is a strong conservative. He's a Republican too. They said, that's not what we're talking about. They said, if we get the both of you, then we got a former Auburn football coach. And then we got the wife of the captain of the Alabama football team. It's truly bipartisan. So,
that's good.
Isn't that good? Isn't that good?
You went through that campaign. You won, and your momentum, as I was following it, and I was talking to Shelby a lot, your momentum really, the last 2 weeks was really strong.
It was.
And you had it rolling. And it was obvious you were going to win.
Thank you.
And win a runoff. And you did. And then all of a sudden, it dawned on you, you're a U.S. Senator.
Gosh.
You're going to get sworn in come January.
Can't believe it.
And so what did you do to go about getting ready, moving your family up? How old were your children at that time?
So my children were 6th and 7th grade when we were running, golly, and then now they're 8th and 9th grade. And so when we talked about that, and then, 7th and 8th grade when I was sworn in, it's the middle of the year, and they said, Mom, we really want to stay here. And so we kind of wrestled with what to do. And so ultimately we are in Montgomery, and then I go back and forth, and they're in 8th and 9th grade. That truly, Kent, was a challenge for me as a mama. I don't want to miss things. I don't want to not be there. I like taking them to school in the morning, tucking them in at night, even though they don't let you do that anymore when they get this old. And so it was an adjustment.
Do you fly? Can you get a direct flight from D.C. Into Montgomery, or you go to Birmingham?
In order to take them to school, which they are at the age where in a year, they'll be driving themselves, so every moment counts. I take them to school in the mornings, and so I miss the flight out of Montgomery as a result. So I have to drive to Birmingham or drive to Atlanta. And my team one day said, it's 8 minutes in the car with them. Why don't you just take this flight? And I said, absolutely not. It is 8 minutes with my children that I will not get back. And so I savor every one of those moments. And I do have a direct flight, though, back into Montgomery on Thursdays usually. So I am grateful for that. Usually gets me there in time for a volleyball game or a soccer game or something.
What has been the biggest change that you've seen? You had been a chief of staff, you had been on the press team for Shelby, and all of a sudden you are a U.S. Senator.
Gosh.
And what's been the biggest change that you've had to adjust to?
Wow. It's still is hard for me to wrap my head around that the very building that I interned in, that my name is on the door. And it is, I think, unique and special that it is in the same building that I first got to serve Richard Shelby and the people of Alabama in. I think probably being in the room, one of the things that has probably been the biggest challenge I've seen is just kind of sort of the lack of function right now in the U.S. Senate. And I can speak directly to that. It just seems that previously, there may have been a greater opportunity for relationship building or to work with others to get things done. And I think an example of that is even just the appropriations process. So I'm on the appropriations committee, and the last time I did the work, I dug in because I'm like, why is this not working? Why are we kicking the can down the road? We went golly, a solid 174 days into the fiscal year before we passed appropriations bills. I mean, nobody could operate like that. We shouldn't, we're failing the American people by letting the U.S. government operate like that. And if you look at it, we as appropriators finished our job 236 days before that. We finished all 12 bills. So you see, I guess, the power that leadership has, because that's Chuck Schumer not putting those bills on the floor. And so you kind of sort of see that. And then how do we get back to doing our job? And the last time that we passed all 12 bills by September 30th was 1997. Can you believe that? 97. And the last time we passed them individually on time was 1995. And so we've got to get back to doing our job for the people, whether it is passing the farm bill on time or passing these appropriations bills, or we have FAA reauthorization coming up. We don't need to wait until the 11th hour. You know, like let's do it and get it done. So probably the lack of function there. But I am committed. It may take me it may take me a little bit, but I'm going to get that train back on the track. I can promise you that. And then I think I have really enjoyed getting to know my colleagues, though. That has been truly special. I get the opportunity to work with a lot of really good people. And so whether it's getting to know them in Senate Bible study, which has been wonderful because there's so many men and women that are just true believers and are, dive in people. good people. Or we, like, our freshman class gets together for dinner, which is always great. Or even traveling abroad to learn about national defense, learn about international relations. That's been incredible.
And the investments that the United States has in military bases all over the world. That's exactly
right. Visiting our troops.
You need to be there.
Visiting our troops. And so those types of opportunities where you're visiting our troops, you're visiting with a world leader, you get to know your colleague, and you also get to, be even better in your service. So,
you've worked to get along with people. And you have a good reputation for that.
Thank
and
you.
You've never compromised your principles on your votes.
That's right.
And so there are people that are liberal Democrats that you get along with. They'll joke with you and things like that.
That's right.
But you don't compromise your principle, and you don't compromise your vote.
That's right.
But you still have influence with them. And I think that's very important.
I do. I say often, we've got to have a lot of tough conversations in this country. And in order for those tough conversations to ever yield solutions, they've got to be honest. And you're never going to have an honest conversation sitting across from someone that you don't both trust and respect. And so every opportunity that I have to interact with my colleagues on either side of the aisle is an opportunity for me to earn their trust and respect. And I am of the belief we have to get back to a place in this country where you don't have to agree with someone to treat them with
respect.
That's exactly right. And I saw that with Senator Shelby, and I saw that it yielded results. And you'll never know where you have common ground if you don't have a conversation. And then I think people also, when they get to know that you stand on principle, and that I stand on these fundamentally conservative principles, and it's who I am. And I think it creates and charts a better path forward for the friendship.
Well, one of the things that's a big deal here in Texas, but it's a big deal in Alabama, is the border crisis.
Yeah.
And it is, and you've worked hard on that.
I have.
And I appreciate that, but touch on that just a little.
Yeah, I will. So one of the things I feel like too many times we get leaders in D.C. that kind of legislate from on high. They try to fix a problem that they know nothing about or don't take the time to dive into. And I wanted to take a different approach. And so I came down to the border 3 times my first 2 months in office. And I did that because people can tell you about it, you can read about it, but unless you're there and you look them in the eyes and you ask those tough questions and you say, I want the real unvarnished truth, when you see the eyes of a Border Patrol agent who tells you that he pulled a lifeless body of a woman from the river who was pregnant with twins, when you hear about the trafficking numbers going from 500 million in 2018 under President Trump to the $13 billion industry now under President Biden, you see the face of that, and it changes the way that you communicate about it and the passion in which drives you to create a solution. I feel the same way when I talk to parents who lose their children or have lost their children to fentanyl poisoning. I mean, that's the leading cause of death between the ages of 18 and 45 in this country. And we know where it's coming from. The precursors are coming from China, and they make their way to Mexico. They come across our border, and it's affecting every community across our country. And then, I mean, you look at terrorists. So I often say that under Joe Biden, it is open season for drug cartels, human traffickers, and terrorists. We had the FBI director was in front of the Senate Judiciary Committee not too long ago, and they were referencing 9/11 and the fact that we missed some of the blinking lights. And they said, what do you feel like the threat assessment is now? And the FBI director said, and of course I'm paraphrasing, but he said, there are blinking lights everywhere I turn. It was an interaction between he and Senator Lindsey Graham. And look, when you look at those numbers and the numbers of people that have come, it's anywhere from 7 to 9 million. When you look at the numbers of known gotaways that have come here, it's, upwards of 1.82 million. And those are people that we saw, but we never touched gloves with. So we don't know who they are, where they're going, or what their intentions are. And when you look at the number of known terrorists that have come to the border on the terrorist watch list, it was 11 under the previous administration. I think we're at 354 now under this administration. The truth is we've got to get this under control. And in many situations, we may share a common goal with someone on the other side of the aisle and have a different idea about how we get there. But in this situation, the president is not serious about securing the border. We saw under President Trump, it was the most secure border of all time. You see Joe Biden come in. He says, I'm going to halt deportations. I am going to stop construction of the border wall, and I'm going to give you amnesty. That type of rhetoric invites, it acts as a magnet. Then he did 94 executive orders in the first 100 days, undoing the progress that President Trump had made. And so we are seeing the result of that. And one of the reasons I say, in addition to the fact that he has not used any executive action to really take a hold of this, but also in conversations, you hear a lot about the asylum abuse system, and that is true. The drug cartels have taught these migrants how to abuse the asylum system, what to say, when to say it, how to do that, all of that. And so we certainly need to change that, but we also need to take a look at parole. So if you look back at the stats, both President Obama and President Trump used the Presidential Parole Authority, and these came, Senator Graham's team, when they were working through the judiciary issue that we were talking about earlier, brought these to light and said that they did about 5,600 people a year on average is what those two presidents paroled into the nation. On average, their data showed that President Biden paroles, on average, 1 million people a year into this country.
That was versus what was the other number?
5,600. 5,600 to 1 million a year. And, so we have to do more. I mean, we have to secure our border. Things like the Remain in Mexico policy, things like finishing the construction of the border wall, things like showing deterrence, which is deportations and detentions, is critically important. Giving ICE officers the tools they need to do that, because when people are detained and people are deported, and we have 1.3 million people in this nation that have been they've been given due process under our judicial system here, and they've been given final orders of removal. They're on the non-detained docket. There's 6.3 million total, but 1.3 million of those are set to be removed. This administration is not taking that serious, and we know that when you do deport the people who have been given their due process, when those planes land in those countries, it serves as a deterrent. People are less likely to do it, and they're just this administration is just not serious.
They've just ignored it. I think they think that those are going to be their potential voters someday.
Well, they absolutely do, and that's a great point. So two things on that. One, you look at non-citizen voting. We are seeing that in blue cities pop up all around the country, most notably Washington, D.C. So think about this. Non-citizens can vote in elections in Washington, D.C. Now, Washington, D.C., as it has been noted many times, has more foreign assets than any other place across the globe. So you're telling me that people are here that are intent to do us harm are allowed to vote in elections about how our nation's capital is run. And then add on to that, think about this. Every embassy, including the Chinese Communist Party that is represented there at the Chinese embassy, have workers that can vote in our elections that govern our nation's capital. It's unbelievable. But to your point about voters, Bill Hagerty had an amendment, Senator Hagerty from Tennessee, that he added on, that he offered on to one of these appropriations bills that we did, that said we do not need to count non-citizens as part of congressional representation.
Right.
So only citizens should be represented by a congressman. Right now, that's not the case. And when I tell people that, they're like, what? So you do not have to be a citizen in order to be counted when it comes to congressional representation. And every single Senate Democrat voted that down. And that tells you all you need to know right there. That's all you need to know right there.
Got elections coming up, the presidential election. Everybody has an opinion on that. But you also have the Senate.
Yeah.
And right now, Republicans are in the minority.
Mm-hmm.
But if they gain majority status, you will be chairman of one of the subcommittees.
I will.
And which one will that be? And
yeah, so I will be the chair of the Homeland Security Subcommittee on Appropriations. So
and that's the reason I wanted to bring that up.
That's right.
That is very important in the state of Texas.
We have a lot to do. I mean, we need people who understand the issue and are willing to do the hard things. And that's exactly what I plan to do in that position, and make sure that the dollars we spent are spent in the right places, so that we can truly secure our border and make America safe again. And I think President Trump will win the presidency, and I feel good about where we are in the Senate. This is our year. We are not only going to regain control, but hopefully give ourselves a couple seat majority. And when we do that and hopefully hold the House, we got to do big things for the American people. I mean, we've got to make sure, if you look at this administration, whether we're talking about the border, whether we're talking about abroad, whether we're talking about here at home, we are weaker and more vulnerable every day
than we've ever been.
Ever. And so making sure that we put policies in place that allow Americans to thrive, that give them opportunity. I mean, I have watched just regulation after regulation after regulation. We know that crushes small business. It crushes hardworking people. You look at the energy sector. Goodness gracious. We need to not just be energy independent. We need to be energy dominant. It not only makes dollars and cents in driving gas prices down and everything from, the grocery store to heating and cooling your home, but also what it does abroad. I mean, right now we are letting Russia hold so many of our allies in the palm of their hand. We look at what's happening with Iran. I mean, you look at what's happening in the Middle East. It would put us in a stronger position, both everyday Americans financially, but it would put us in a stronger position in our posture across the globe. So getting back to energy dominance is certainly where we have to do.
It's big in Texas, and we appreciate you. Appreciate all that you do.
Thank you.
Not just for Alabama, but for the entire nation.
Thank you.
And we were honored that you would come on our show.
I am honored to be on it.
And is there anything you want to say in closing?
I would say just make sure that you'll send Ted Cruz back to the United States Senate. We need his strong conservative voice. It's been an honor to learn from him, to fight alongside him. And so we need everybody doing everything to make sure that we not only keep the majority, but we keep Ted right where he is in the United States Senate.
Okay. I think you not only have done well in a short period of time, but your future is very bright.
Thank you so much.
So, if you run for some other office or something, I'll just tell you I'm for you.
Thank you. Well, listen, I believe in this nation. And look, I mean, we have a lot of challenging things in front of us, but every generation has been called to do hard things. And I believe in who we are to our core as Americans, and believe that there's no challenge too great for this country. So it's an honor to be in the fight, to be in the arena, and to try to make this place even better for the next generation. So thank you for having me.
Thank you, Senator. We're proud of you.
Thank you so much.